Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. This is the second part of our latest video in which you will discover the real worth of old rare coins, and who knows, you would be lucky enough to have any of these rare coins. Top 6. We've got something truly exciting to discuss. The 1982 1-cent coin. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? Well, think again. This 1982 penny is far more interesting and valuable than most people realize. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just getting started, you'll definitely want to stick around to hear how this humble 1-cent coin could potentially be worth way more than its face value. Trust me, you won't believe how much it could sell for in the right condition. So, let's get into it. To truly appreciate the value of the 1982 penny, let's first set the stage and talk a little bit about the year itself. The 1982 1-cent coin holds a special place in U.S. minting history. Why, you ask? Well, 1982 was a turning point for the U.S. penny. Up until that year, pennies were made primarily of copper, a metal that had been in use for decades. However, due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint switched the composition of the penny in 1982 from 95% copper to a mixture of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper, a change that had significant consequences for the coin's value and appearance. As a result, there were two different types of pennies produced in 1982, copper pennies, weighing 3.11 grams, and the new zinc pennies, weighing 2.5 grams. The switch happened in mid-1982, which means the 1982 penny comes in two distinct variations, and this change has made certain pennies from that year incredibly sought after by collectors. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Errors and mistakes made during the minting process in 1982 have made these pennies even more valuable. Now, let's talk about the two main types of 1982 pennies, the copper and zinc versions. It may sound like a small difference, but for collectors, it's a game changer. Here's what makes each one stand out. The copper pennies minted in early 1982 are highly valued by collectors, mostly because they represent a piece of history. These copper pennies are made from the same composition that was used for years before 1982, and they weigh a bit more than the zinc pennies, 3.11 grams compared to the zinc pennies' 2.5 grams. Because the U.S. Mint only produced copper pennies for the first few months of 1982, they are much rarer to find today. If you come across a 1982 copper penny, it's likely worth more than just 1 cent, especially if it's in excellent condition. However, what makes this coin even more interesting is that minting errors are quite common with these copper pennies. After mid-1982, the U.S. Mint switched to using zinc-coated steel for penny production. These pennies weigh less and are more common, but they've got their own unique qualities as well. The zinc 1982 pennies are often found in circulated condition because they've been in circulation for many years. Both of these varieties have their own appeal, but the copper version from early 1982, combined with certain minting errors, is what collectors are really after. Alright, now let's get to the exciting part, the errors. When it comes to coins, mistakes during the minting process can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into something extraordinarily valuable. And the 1982 penny is no exception. Here are some of the rare errors you should be looking for in a 1982 penny. One of the most well-known errors that can occur in the 1982 penny is the double die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the penny is slightly misaligned during the minting process, resulting in doubled features on the coin. The most noticeable areas to look for doubling are in the date, 1982, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you find a 1982 penny with a noticeable double die error, it could be worth a lot more than its face value. Another minting error to keep an eye out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the penny is not properly aligned with the die during the minting process, causing part of the coin's design to be missing or misaligned. An off-center strike can sometimes cause the date or the image of Abraham Lincoln to be partially cut off, making the coin unique and highly collectible. A clipped planchet occurs when the metal blank used to create the coin is incorrectly cut before the penny is struck. This results in a coin with a missing or clipped edge. These types of coins are highly sought after by collectors because they're one-of-a-kind pieces of U.S. mint history. The more extreme the clip, the more valuable the coin. Finally, don't forget to check for die cracks or cuds, another type of minting error that can dramatically increase the value of the coin. A die crack occurs when the minting die used to strike the coin becomes cracked or damaged, leaving a line or raised bump on the coin. A cud is a raised lump of metal that forms on the coin when part of the die breaks off during minting. These errors aren't as common as some others, but they definitely add a unique flair to any collection, and they can also raise the value of the 1982 penny significantly. Now, let's get to the million-dollar question. How much could your 1982 penny be worth? If you find a 1982 copper penny with one of these rare minting errors, especially a double die obverse or off-center strike, it could be worth thousands of dollars. And if it's in pristine condition, it could sell for even more. But here's where things get truly interesting. If you've got a 1982 penny, whether copper or zinc, that's in perfect condition and has one of the more severe errors we just discussed, you could be sitting on a small fortune. A penny with a major minting error can command a premium price in the market, especially if it's been graded by a professional coin grading service. And now, for the exciting reveal, if you happen to have a 1982 penny with a major minting error, like a double die obverse or a severe off-center strike, it could be worth $47,000, that's right, $47,000 for a single 1982 penny. So, how do you know if you've got a $47,000 penny on your hands? Here's a quick guide to help you out. Look for doubling. Inspect the date, Liberty, and in God we trust for signs of doubling. Does the design look misaligned or is part of it missing? That could indicate an off-center strike. Inspect the edges. If part of the edge is clipped or irregular, you might have a clipped. Look for die cracks or cuds that could add value to your coin. If you think you found a rare 1982 penny, be sure to have it professionally graded to determine its exact value and authenticity. And there you have it, the 1982 penny, a coin that may seem ordinary at first glance, but could hold incredible value if you find the right minting error. Whether it's a double die obverse, an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, the 1982 penny could be worth a small fortune. So, before you toss that penny into a jar, make sure to take a closer look. You might just be holding on to $47,000 in pocket change. Top 7. We've got a fascinating topic, the 2005 1-cent coin. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? But hold on, this coin might be worth much more than you realize. The 2005 penny isn't just any ordinary 1-cent coin. There are some rare variants and minting errors that could make it worth thousands of dollars. Yes, you heard that right, thousands of dollars. So, stick around as we uncover the value of the 2005 penny and see how much it could be worth today. Let's take a moment to set the stage. The 2005 1-cent coin is part of the Lincoln Bicentennial series, celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a monumental year for the U.S. Mint, and it marked the beginning of a special design series in honor of Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. For much of the 20th century, pennies featured the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side, but in 2005, the Mint began striking coins with new reverse designs to honor Lincoln's legacy. These designs were part of a multi-year series that started in 2009, but 2005 set the stage with a new look for the penny, which was an exciting time for collectors and history buffs alike. The 2005 penny is also part of a transition period in U.S. coinage. By the time this penny was minted, the U.S. Mint had been working with new materials and techniques, leading to the eventual shift in metal composition for coins. However, 2005 pennies were still made with the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc mixture, which is why some of them have become especially sought after by collectors today. Now let's dive into the design of the 2005 penny. On the obverse, the front of the coin, you'll find the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. This image of Lincoln has graced the penny since 1909, and it remains a symbol of the enduring legacy of the nation's 16th president. The reverse side of the 2005 penny is where things get interesting. As part of the Lincoln Bicentennial series, the U.S. Mint issued a new reverse design to commemorate the life and legacy of Lincoln. For 2005, the reverse features Lincoln's birth and early childhood in a log cabin in Kentucky, which symbolizes his humble beginnings and rise to greatness. This design showcases a log cabin with a simple, rural scene that represents Lincoln's early years. The inscription reads, "Born in a log cabin in Kentucky," and this representation is one of the first designs to honor Lincoln in this unique way. But this coin isn't just about the design, it's also about what errors can be found on these pennies, which is where the real value can be hidden. You see, the 2005 penny isn't just valuable because of its design, it's also valuable because of the minting errors and rare variations that happened during the production process. And when we're talking about rare coins, errors are what make them truly valuable. Let's explore some of the most common and valuable errors that can be found on the 2005 penny. One of the most sought-after errors that can be found on a 2005 penny is the double die error. This happens when a coin is struck twice by the same die, resulting in doubled images on the coin. The most common areas to look for doubling are on the date, 2005, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you find a 2005 penny with noticeable doubling, especially on the date or the inscription, you might have an error coin worth a lot more than 1 cent. Some double die pennies can sell for hundreds of dollars, depending on the severity of the error. Another error that can increase the value of a 2005 penny is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is struck in the wrong position or alignment, causing part of the design to be off-center or even missing. If the off-center error is significant enough to make part of Lincoln's portrait or the date unreadable, collectors will find it highly valuable. Coins with severe misalignment like this are rarer than you might think, and the rarer the error, the higher the potential value. A clipped planchet is another minting error that can make your 2005 penny worth more money. This happens when the blank metal planchet used to create the coin is improperly cut before it's struck. The result is a coin with an irregular shape, and sometimes part of the design is cut off. If you find a 2005 penny with a clipped edge, it's a rare find, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for these unique errors. Die cracks and cuds are other common errors that can appear on a 2005 penny. A die crack occurs when a crack forms in the minting die, and that crack transfers to the coin. This results in a raised line or blemish on the coin's surface. A cud happens when part of the die breaks off, creating a raised lump on the coin. Coins with these types of errors can be unique, and depending on how pronounced the crack or cud is, they can increase the coin's value. So, how much is the 2005 penny worth? Well, if your penny has one of the error types we've discussed, its value can skyrocket far above its face value of 1 cent. Double die errors can bring hundreds of dollars, off-center strikes and clipped planchets can fetch a pretty penny, pun intended, and die cracks or cuds can add significant value as well. But here's the exciting part: the value of a 2005 penny can go up even more if it's in pristine condition, especially if it has one of the rarer minting errors we just covered. So, after all this talk about errors and rare variants, you're probably wondering, how much could your 2005 penny be worth? Well, if you have a 2005 penny with a major error, such as a double die obverse or a severe off-center strike, you could be looking at a coin worth up to $32,000. Yes, that's right, $32,004. A 2005 penny with a rare error. Isn't that incredible? Here's a quick guide to help you identify if your 2005 penny could be worth a small fortune. Check for doubling, look closely at the date, liberty, and in God We Trust for any signs of doubling. Inspect the alignment. Is part of the design misaligned? That could indicate an off-center strike. Examine the edges. If part of the edge is clipped or irregular, it might be a clipped planchet. Look for cracks or lumps. Check for die cracks or cuds on the coin surface. Once you found a potentially rare 2005 penny, make sure to store it carefully and consider having it professionally graded by a coin grading service to confirm its value. So there you have it. The 2005 penny, a coin that could be much more valuable than you think. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, a 2005 penny with a rare minting error could be worth a small fortune. Before you toss your pennies into a jar, take a closer look. you could be holding on to $32,000 in pocket change. Top 8. We've got a real gem to talk about, the 1989 1-cent coin. Yes, you heard that right, the 1989 penny. While it may seem like just another coin, there's more to it than meets the eye. The 1989 penny has some surprising features that could make it worth far more than its face value of 1 cent. In fact, if you're lucky enough to come across a certain version of this penny, you could be sitting on a small fortune. So, grab your magnifying glass, because we're about to dive deep into the world of the 1989 penny, its history, its design, and the potential errors that can make it worth thousands of dollars. Before we get into the valuable details, let's talk a little about the 1989 penny and the era it came from. In 1989, the U.S. Mint was producing standard 1-cent coins, featuring the iconic design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, front, and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, back. This design had been in circulation since 1959, and in 1989, it was still part of the long-running penny design series. However, the late 1980s were a time of change in U.S. coinage. Although the designs on the penny hadn't changed much, the economic landscape was shifting. The late 80s saw a rise in inflation, and with it, production costs for copper were becoming increasingly expensive. This would eventually lead to a significant change in the composition of the penny just a few years later, in 1982. But back to 1989, the 1989 penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, making it heavier and more valuable in terms of the raw material than today's pennies, which are made primarily of zinc. At the time, the penny was still an important part of American daily life, and millions were produced by the U.S. Mint to meet the demand. But here's the thing, many of these pennies are still in circulation today, and finding a well-preserved or error penny from 1989 can make it incredibly valuable to collectors. And with all the minting mistakes that occur, some of these pennies are far rarer than most people realize. Let's take a look at the design of the 1989 penny. The front side features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. The image of Lincoln, in profile, has been a constant on the penny since 1909. Around the rim, you'll find the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of minting, 1989. This image of Lincoln has become a symbol of the nation, representing unity, freedom, and the ideals of democracy. The reverse of the penny is where things are most recognizable for anyone familiar with the history of U.S. coinage. The Lincoln Memorial, the iconic structure in Washington, D.C., is featured prominently. The words "E Pluribus Unum" and "United States of America" appear on the upper rim, while 1 cent is written on the lower portion of the coin. This design, used from 1959 to 2008, is an enduring symbol of the country's legacy. But now here's where it gets interesting: errors. What makes the 1989 penny special? The answer lies in minting errors. While the majority of 1989 pennies were struck perfectly, sometimes the minting process didn't go quite as planned, creating rare and valuable errors that could make your penny worth thousands of dollars. Let's dive into the most significant errors to look for. One of the most common and sought-after errors in any coin collection is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the same die, resulting in doubled images on certain areas of the coin. On the 1989 penny, the most common spots to check for doubling are on the date, 1989, the word "Liberty," and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you find a 1989 penny with clear doubling, especially in the date or the lettering, you might be sitting on a rare gem that could be worth much more than just 1 cent. The rarer the doubling, the higher the value. Another significant error to look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't properly aligned with the minting die, causing part of the design to be cut off or misaligned. If you find a 1989 penny that has part of the Lincoln Memorial or Lincoln's portrait missing due to an off-center strike, you could have a valuable error coin on your hands. The more extreme the off-center error, the more valuable the coin could be. Some off-center strike coins can sell for a premium if the mistake is particularly noticeable. A clipped planchet occurs when the metal blank used to create the penny is incorrectly cut, resulting in a missing portion of the coin's edge. This can cause a partial clip in the shape of a curved edge or a portion of the design to be missing. A 1989 penny with a clipped planchet is a rarity and can be worth significantly more than its face value. Coins with large clips or irregular edges are highly prized by collectors, and finding a 1989 penny like this could mean a major payday. Die cracks and cuds, raised lumps of metal, form when there's damage to the die used to strike the coins. A die crack appears as a thin line on the surface of the coin, often running across the date or part of Lincoln's portrait. A cud happens when a section of the die breaks off, leaving a raised area on the coin. These errors are common but still highly collectible. If you find a 1989 penny with a die crack or cud, you could have a unique coin that commands higher value. So, how much can the 1989 penny be worth? The answer depends on the condition of the coin and whether it has any rare errors. For most standard 1989 pennies, their value is close to face value, especially if they've been circulated and show signs of wear and tear. However, if your 1989 penny is in mint condition or has a rare minting error, it could be worth significantly more. Some error coins from 1989, especially those with double die errors, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets, can command thousands of dollars from collectors. And here's the big reveal: if you have a 1989 penny with one of these rare minting errors, it could be worth $40,000. Yes, that's $40,000 for a single 1989 penny with the right error. Here's how you can spot a valuable 1989 penny. Check for doubling. Look for any doubled images on the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Inspect the edges. Does the coin look misaligned or have part of the design missing? That could mean you have an off-center strike. Examine for clipping. Does the coin have an irregular or clipped edge? It could be a clipped planchet. Look for die cracks or cuds. Check for any raised lines or lumps on the coin. If you found a 1989 penny that matches any of these descriptions, consider having it graded by a professional to determine its true value. And there you have it, the 1989 penny, a coin that may seem ordinary at first glance, but could be worth a small fortune. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, the 1989 penny could be worth $40,000 or more. Top 9. We've got a real treat for you: the 2006 1-cent coin, or as you might know it, the 2006 penny. Now I know what you're thinking: it's just a penny, right? How much could it really be worth? Well, let me tell you, this penny might just surprise you. There are some rare errors and unique features on this coin that could make it worth thousands of dollars. Yes, you heard me right. So stick around as we dive into the history, design, and value of the 2006 penny, and find out just how much this little coin could be worth today. Let's kick things off with a little history. The 2006 penny was minted during an interesting time for the U.S. Mint. By the time 2006 rolled around, the penny had undergone some significant changes. The Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse, back, of the penny had been around for nearly half a century, since 1959, and was about to be replaced. In 2009, the Lincoln Bicentennial series would begin, but 2006 marked a key moment in U.S. coinage history, as it was one of the last years the Lincoln Memorial design was used before being phased out. The 2006 penny was struck in large numbers, and like most circulating coins, it's easy to find in your spare change. But here's the thing: not all 2006 pennies are created equal. While many of these pennies are worth their face value of 1 cent, certain rare versions or minting errors can make them worth much more, much more. And some of these rare coins can be worth thousands of dollars. Let's take a look at the design of the 2006 penny, starting with the obverse, front side. On the front, we have the well-known portrait of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. This iconic image has been on the penny since 1909, making it one of the longest-standing designs in U.S. coinage history. Around Lincoln's bust, we have the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of mintage, 2006. This design remains a symbol of the enduring legacy of one of the most important figures in U.S. history. Now, let's flip the coin over to the reverse side, where you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, the famous monument in Washington, D.C., that's been featured on the penny since 1959. You'll also find the inscription, E Pluribus Unum, along with the words, United States of America, and 1 cent, this Lincoln Memorial design is the final version of the reverse to be used before the Lincoln Bicentennial series began in 2009. The 2006 penny is one of the last coins in circulation to feature this beloved design, making it a historically significant coin, and one that collectors are eager to find, especially in uncirculated or error conditions. Now, let's talk about the real treasures hidden within the 2006 penny. You see, while most of these pennies are worth just 1 cent, minting errors and unique features can make some of them highly valuable. These errors occur when something goes wrong during the striking process, making a coin far rarer than a regular, well-struck penny. So, let's take a look at some of the most valuable errors you can find on the 2006 penny. The double die error is one of the most famous and sought-after mistakes in the coin collecting world. This happens when a coin is struck twice by the same die, causing certain parts of the design to appear doubled. On the 2006 penny, the most common places to look for doubling are the date, 2006, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you find a 2006 penny with doubled lettering or numbers, you've got yourself a potential goldmine. Depending on how pronounced the doubling is, these coins can be worth significantly more than the standard penny. Another valuable minting error to look for on the 2006 penny is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't aligned properly with the minting die, causing part of the design to be misaligned or missing entirely. An off-center strike can result in a coin with a partial design, or sometimes, large sections of the design can be cut off. The more misaligned the design is, the more valuable the coin becomes. An extreme off-center strike can result in a truly rare and unique coin, with collectors willing to pay a premium for these mistakes. A clipped planchet is another error to look for on the 2006 penny. This happens when the blank metal planchet, the piece of metal that is struck to make the coin, is cut incorrectly during the minting process, resulting in a partial or irregular edge. If you come across a clipped planchet penny, it means the coin has a defective edge, a feature that collectors find fascinating and valuable. The more severe the clip, the more valuable the penny could be. Finally, let's talk about die cracks and cuds. These errors happen when the minting die used to strike the coin develops cracks or breaks. The cracks appear as raised lines on the surface of the coin, while a cud forms when part of the die breaks off, leaving a raised lump of metal on the coin. These kinds of errors are relatively common, but depending on the size and visibility of the die crack or cud, they can make a 2006 penny quite valuable to collectors. So, just how much could the 2006 penny be worth? As I've mentioned, the majority of 2006 pennies are worth only their face value of 1 cent. However, the rare errors we've discussed can make these pennies extremely valuable. A perfectly struck 2006 penny with no errors is worth, well, 1 cent. But mint errors like double die, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks can make these pennies worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And here's the big reveal: if you happen to have a rare 2006 penny with one of these minting errors or unique features, it could be worth $28,000. Why yes, that's right, $28,000 for a single 2006 penny. Isn't that mind-blowing? Imagine checking your pocket change and finding one of these rare treasures. You could be holding thousands of dollars in your hand. So how can you identify a valuable 2006 penny? Check for doubling. Look closely at the date, liberty, and in God We Trust for any signs of doubling. Inspect for off-center strikes. Is part of the design misaligned or missing? Examine the edges. Does the coin have an irregular edge? It might be a clipped planchet. Look for die cracks or cuds. Examine the coin for any raised lines or lumps on the surface. If you find a 1989 penny with any of these features, consider having it graded by a professional to determine its value and authenticity. So there you have it, the 2006 penny, a seemingly ordinary coin that could be worth a small fortune if you find the right error. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, a 2006 penny with a rare minting error could be worth $28,000. Top 10 and last, we are gonna overlook a gem that could be hiding in your spare change, the 1985 1-cent coin, also known as the 1985 penny. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's just a penny from the 1980s, how much could it really be worth? Well, you'd be surprised. This seemingly ordinary coin could actually be worth far more than its face value, thousands of dollars, in fact. But not all 1985 pennies are created equal. Some have rare minting errors that could make them worth a small fortune. Stick around as we explore the fascinating history, design, and most importantly, the hidden value of the 1985 penny. And trust me, by the end of this video, you might just want to take a second look at any 1985 pennies you have lying around. Before we get into the valuable details, let's take a quick look at the history of the 1985 penny. In 1985, the U.S. Mint was producing standard 1-cent coins as part of the regular Lincoln Memorial series that had been in circulation for decades. These coins featured the iconic Abraham Lincoln portrait on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that had been used on pennies since 1959. The 1985 penny was minted during a time when the U.S. economy was transitioning through the early 80s recession. While most of however, the coin's design wouldn't stay the same forever. By the late 2000s, the Lincoln Memorial design was phased out, making 1985 pennies a part of an important historical period in U.S. numismatic history. And what makes this coin particularly interesting to collectors is the potential for rare minting errors that could make it much more valuable than anyone expects. Now, let's break down the design of the 1985 penny, which will help you identify any possible errors or anomalies that could increase its value. On the front of the coin, you'll see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. This has been the iconic face of the penny since 1909, and Lincoln's likeness has become synonymous with the United States penny. Around the portrait, you'll find the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of mintage, which in this case is 1985. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, the symbol of the American nation. This design was used on the reverse of the penny from 1959 until 2008, making the 1985 penny a key part of the Lincoln Memorial series. Surrounding the Lincoln Memorial are the words, "E pluribus unum, United States of America," and 1 cent. While the design itself might seem straightforward, it's in the minting process that some unpredictable things happen that can make certain 1985 pennies more valuable than others. So, what makes the 1985 penny valuable? The answer lies in minting errors. These mistakes are what collectors are really after. Errors happen when something goes wrong during the coin's creation, and they can make certain coins incredibly rare and highly sought after. Here are the top minting errors to look out for on your 1985 penny. The double die error is one of the most famous mistakes in the world of coin collecting. This happens when a coin is struck more than once by the same die, resulting in doubled images, often on the date, the lettering, or other design features. For the 1985 penny, the date and the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" are the most common places to check for this error. If you notice doubling or a blurred effect on these areas, you might have a double die error penny, and that could make your coin worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Another valuable mint error is the off-center strike, which happens when the coin is not aligned correctly during the striking process. This results in a misaligned or crooked image, leaving part of the design off the coin entirely. If your 1985 penny has an off-center strike, especially if the misalignment is severe, collectors will pay a premium for this mistake. The more off-center the design, the more valuable the coin becomes. Some off-center coins can even be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on how extreme the error is. A clipped planchet occurs when the blank metal piece, planchet, that is struck to make the coin is cut improperly, leading to a partial or irregularly shaped coin. This can result in a clipped edge or missing portions of the design, making the coin quite rare and interesting to collectors. If you find a 1985 penny with a clipped edge, you may have just stumbled upon a coin that could be worth far more than its face value. Die cracks and cuts occur when there's damage to the die that strikes the coin. Die cracks show up as raised lines on the coin's surface, often in places like the date or Liberty. A cut happens when part of the die breaks off, causing a raised lump of metal on the coin. These types of errors are often small, but if you find one on a 1985 penny, it can still be a rare find for collectors. So, how much is the 1985 penny worth? Well, the answer depends on a few factors: its condition, the rarity of any mint errors, and the demand from collectors. Most 1985 pennies are worth just 1 cent, especially if they're worn or have no errors. However, a mint condition penny or one with rare minting errors could be worth significantly more. If your 1985 penny has one of the rare mint errors we discussed, whether it's a double die, off-center strike, clipped planchet, or die crack, it could be worth thousands of dollars. And here's the big reveal. A 1985 penny with one of these rare minting errors or in excellent condition could be worth $38,000. Yes, that's $38,000 for a single penny. Imagine finding a 1985 penny with a double die error or a severe off-center strike. You could be holding a small fortune in your hands. So, how can you tell if your 1985 penny is worth more than just 1 cent? Look for doubling. Check the date, Liberty, and in God we trust for any signs of doubled lettering or numbers. Examine the edges. Does the coin have an irregular edge or missing portions of the design? That could indicate an off-center strike or clipped planchet. Look for die cracks or cuds. Check for any raised lines or lumps on the coin, which could be signs of die damage. If you find a 1985 penny with any of these rare features, it's definitely worth having it graded by a professional coin grading service to determine its true value. And that's a wrap on the 1985 penny, a coin that might seem ordinary at first, but could be worth a small fortune. Whether it's a double die error, off-center strike, or a clipped planchet, the 1985 penny could be worth $38,000 or more. So before you toss those old pennies into a jar, take a closer look. You might have a treasure hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Happy hunting, and I'll see you in the next video.